Hello everyone and welcome. And here we are, the fifth of these 5-part series on, I'm calling locations for awareness. And one of the kind of maybe difficult things to understand about awareness is the degree to which it's a conditioned, constructed phenomena that the mind, to some degree, constructs its ideas of what it means to be aware. And so the idea that there's a location for awareness has some truth, and it also has some sense of a choice and a construction. And what happens when awareness is not constructed, when it's allowed to just be? And this comes into play particularly with the idea that there's a here and there, that there's a place to be aware from, and there's something that we're being aware of. And at times this is completely normal and natural to have that sense. And there are times when the mind gets quiet enough or still enough that we're very aware, but awareness has no location. It's just everywhere in a sense, or nowhere. We're very aware, very clear, there's a lot of clarity. And but the objects of awareness are not objects. There's not like awareness and then objects. There's just things that are known, and the knowing arise together. And it can be a little bit feeling like, objects in space. Deep and darkest space, I suppose. There's just something exists without any reference to anything else. So an object can exist without any reference to anything else. Exist in awareness and attention. So might be difficult, unusual to understand what I'm trying to say, but we'll do a little meditation and see if maybe you can get some feeling for this. So to assume a meditation posture and to gently close your eyes and to gently become aware. Gently become aware of your body. And feeling the substance of your body, the weight against your chair or your cushion. To feel the weights of your hands. And if your hands are resting upon something, feeling that resting of the weight. And then within this body, to take a long, slow, deep breath. And as the torso expands, to feel it as a massage from the inside, a stretching, an opening. And as the inhale, as the torso contracts again, feel it the other half of the rhythm of a massage. A gentle, caring for the body. Letting the breathing return to normal. And as you exhale, to relax the body. Soften the different parts of your body, scanning through. And then gently, as you exhale, to relax the thinking mind, the energy, agitation of thinking, any sense of contraction or pressure, coagulation in the thinking mind. And then at the end of the exhale, we're really feeling for a while the exhale, whenever you're exhaling, a heightened kind of sensing the physical experience of exhaling. How the chest moves, the diaphragm, the belly. And when you come to the end of the exhale, for a second or so, pause before you inhale. And in that pause, maybe you can let go more, relax more, for there to be more of the exhale. And if that happens, then pause again at the very end. One way or the other, let there be a pause at the end of the exhale. feeling the sensations in your body where that pause occurs. And then allow for the inhale to begin. Allow the sensations of inhale to come into awareness. If pausing at the end of the exhale causes some discomfort in breathing that throws it off a little bit, let there be almost a pause at the end, so that there's a little heightened ability to receive the inhale. And allow for the exhale. Allow the body to release as you exhale. Receiving the inhale, allowing the exhale. Noticing if more your awareness is in the sensations of breathing, or awareness is more maybe in the head or the knowing of breathing. Is there a distance between awareness, the knowing, and the breathing? Is there a sense that there's an object, that sensations to be aware of, and you being aware? And if there is, what are the sensations? What's the feeling? What's the location of the you that's aware? What's the feeling? What's the sensation of that which is aware? That which is receptive, that which is allowing. And if there is a you or that which is receptive or allowing, on the exhale, see, let that relax, let that soften. Letting the sense of a doer of mindfulness recede into the background. Let it evaporate. And there's no receiving, no allowing. The sensations of breathing just are. They appear in awareness. No distance between awareness and what you're aware of. The sensations of breathing appear in vast space. Each sensation, each experience of breathing just is. An awareness of breathing just is inseparable. Knowing has no location apart from the sensation. Each sensation, no need for it to exist in a reference to anything else. Breathing itself. No watcher. Just aware. No distance. Just awareness. No location. Just awareness. No receiver of experience. no victim of experience. No actor of experience. Just knowing, just awareness, experience by itself. Breathing by itself is not thinking. Breathing is free of thinking. Thinking is an overlay, is a separate process than breathing. To be aware of breathing without thinking, without reference to thought, just breathing. When there is no thinking, or beyond the edges of thinking, the awareness experience just is, without location, distance, here or there, thought about, conceived, conceptualized. Awareness without self, experience without a experiencer. Nothing extra, nothing added. To the basic simplicity of experience. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, to take a few moments to relax on the exhale. Soften whatever is energized or contracted and without any sense of distance, close or far away, no sense of receiving or being active. Allow there to arise some notion of care and kindness. Kindness that for now has no object, not thinking of anybody, just kindness which has no reference point of other people, other places, other times. Just kindness, care, love without an object. Maybe love that has no location because it's everywhere. Everywhere in the field, the range of how far away you can hear or sense or feel or imagine that love is part and parcel of whatever way, whatever field of awareness there might be here. And in this objectless love or care, to fill it with universal goodwill for others. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And may all beings be known peacefully within the range of awareness, within mindfulness. Thank you. So welcome to this fifth talk on locations for awareness or perspectives on awareness. And this theme for this week was selected because last time I was here I talked about compassion, and next week I'd like to continue this theme of compassion. But in between I wanted to explore the medium through which compassion travels or occurs or is stimulated. And that medium is our capacity for attention. If we have compassion for another person who's suffering, then only way that we know they're suffering is we know it. There's an awareness of it. There's a attention, experience it in some way. And that act of knowing, act of being aware, can often go unexamined, unconsidered. It's almost as if there is no separation. It's just suffering, and that we experience that suffering almost sometimes. And sometimes the empathy, so-called empathy of other people's suffering, is experienced, and it's too hard for people. They feel overwhelmed. They feel like they're way too sensitive. They feel that they get exhausted from it. Or they don't quite understand how to have compassion because they feel kind of apart from other people's suffering and don't feel like it doesn't touch them in some way. So a lot of this has to do with the nature of how we're being aware. And we can be aware in different ways. And so to begin knowing the range and the variety of ways in which knowing comes into existence. We know something because we see it. We know something because we hear it. If someone tells us a story about someone who's suffering, the medium through which that's coming is through the hearing. If we're with someone who's suffering, we see it, then it's through the seeing. And if we're sitting, by ourselves and we remember that someone who's suffering, then it's through the medium of our thoughts, our images in the mind, our memory. So these are all different means of becoming aware. And then there's a sense of how we're aware, from where we're aware of this. And often enough, the locus of awareness is our sense of self. In fact, that locus sometimes is around what we construct a sense of self. Also, and so how we're aware, the location which we're aware from, is something that we can change and adjust. And that's been the theme for this week. And a skilled use of awareness, of mindfulness, is to be sensitive to how the different ways in which we can be aware, and then be able to have some skill in choosing how to be aware. If we don't choose between all the different modalities of awareness, then if the modality of awareness which we have is not serving us when we're with suffering, then we're just going to keep touching into this unhelpful way of sharing and suffering of others in a way that it's exhausting, or it's debilitating, or we just feel too much pain to really have effective compassion. So to find a way of being aware that allows us to be balanced, allows us not to suffer more than the person who's suffering, to suffer less, but to be empathic, to feel, to know what's happening. So we can move around our awareness. We can sometimes it helps to feel like we're really removed, like the mind steps back and gets the bird's eye view. Sometimes we can get really close. We don't have to physically get close, but we can really kind of just sense close to what's happening. And maybe it's feeling closely what's happening to ourselves. Because if we use this medium of awareness to only be aware of others, then we're missing out on the impact and how we're participating in it, in the experience that we're having. And if we're only with ourselves, then it also can imbalance the whole situation. So yesterday I talked about the 50-50 approach to being aware, 50% here, 50% there. As meditation, as mindfulness becomes richer and fuller for people, one way that we can be aware of people suffering, be aware of compassion, be aware in general, is to have the awareness not be yoked to our sense of self, to me, myself, and mine. That to have that part of the mind not hijack or not engaged with how we're aware, what we're aware of, and just be aware, and not even being aware receptively, because if a receptive awareness, there's something, someone who's receiving. Not be actively aware of going out to be aware out there, because then there's an actor, someone who's doing the awareness. There's this marvelous kind of middle way that we just can be aware without being the receiver and without being the actor who goes. And there can be a lot of clarity. It's not being aloof or disconnected, but it's a connection which is not, doesn't have a receiver, doesn't have a thought, idea, concept, stories about who I am and what I have to do and my responsibilities and this is this is something I have to deal with, I have to respond to, and this is happening to me. There's a victim here I go again. And there's a lot of extra stuff that comes along that has a lot to do with our conceptual mind, that our thinking mind, and our that's something, and it's kind of the activation is going on that we don't even know we're activated. It just seems like this is how it always is. Meditation, as we get quieter and quieter, settled, more and more settled, then at some point, the construct of a receiver, if even a receiving, is not needed. The construct of having the mind go towards something and become aware of it is not needed. There's just allowing whatever arises in awareness, whatever it might be, without choice, just arise without a sense of a doer or receiver, without a sense of it's out there and I'm here, without distance, and at the same time as no distance, there is no concern for distance. It isn't like we're glued to anything. That's not that kind of lack of distance. It's because there's no reference point for distance, no reference point for being glued to something. Something just arises. And it can be phenomenally respectful for oneself and for others, this kind of very relaxed, open awareness, because it allows each thing to be just what it is for itself. So so sometimes it's completely wonderful and fun even, and appropriate to take agency over how we're aware and to adjust how we're aware and find how to be aware that's the right way for the moment, the appropriate way for us and for the situation. And then sometimes what can be available to us is this dropping away of self, dropping away of a reference point. And it isn't that we're becoming shut down or aloof or disconnected. There's a lot of sensitivity to our body, our mind, our thoughts, what's happening here. It's not organized around this idea of a central person who's having this experience. But we're responsible for all of this. We know all of this. But we're not engaged in that kind of preoccupation and agitation around me, myself, and mine. And there can be a lot of presence for another person. And there's just kind of a sense of freedom, a sense of infinite space, that things just exist there in their own simplicity. In a way, at times when it's really strong, there's no future and past. It's just what it is. There's no here nor there. It's just what it is. There's no closeness and no aloofness or distance. It's just what's there. and everything is just there. And that's a marvelous way for compassion just to arise, and compassion is just there. Compassion has been triggered, has been awakened, but there's no burden to compassion. There's no obligation to compassion. There's no me that has to do something with this. It's all just kind of allowed to arise and be there. Compassion arises, and if there's something we can do, the motivation to do it arises in that same freedom. And it's a deep, deep trust in allowing this deeper stuff to occur. And as long as we have this heightened sensitivity, this heightened clarity to what's happening in our body, our minds, and thoughts, then the intuition is not going to be hijacked by our preferences, our unhelpful desires, or our ego. Some people let go of just really trust their intuition in this kind of way that I'm talking about, but they're not really in touch with themselves very well. They're not really aware of what's happening in themselves. And sometimes they do mistakes and they act impulsively, or they don't realize how much they're acting on ego or desires. It just feels like they're just free and allowing things to happen. So next week I'll talk about compassion, and I'm hoping that this prepares the ground, that as you hear about compassion and how I'm going to talk about it, that you will consider how to adjust the medium for how to be aware, the way to be aware of suffering in the world, and so that how you're aware allows for something deeper to happen, which is what I'll talk about next week. And so in preparation for that, if you have the time and the inclination for this weekend, as you become aware of your own suffering, the suffering of others, explore a little this thing about the medium of awareness. How are you aware? What's the location from which you're aware? What's the way in which you know it? Is it more feeling in the body? It's more in the head with thoughts? Is more from a distance, more close in? Which of all those is a useful way to be there? And then maybe they all have their own use at different times. And then is there something about being with suffering that is radically simple, so simple that it's just suffering, just compassion, just presence, just attention, without all the being crowded in by thoughts, obligation, responsibilities, fixing it, experiencing and being the experiencer, how it is for me. Just allow it to be. So explore this, and then maybe the more you can explore this over the weekend, I'm hoping the more you'll understand the tremendous value of that compassion has for this path of mindfulness, and how it really is a very significant way to learn about mindfulness and how to develop on this path. So thank you very much. And maybe I've said this before, a reminder, not this Sunday, but the following one on the 16th, IMC is going to have an online community meeting at 11 o'clock Sunday morning, so after the Sunday morning program. And you're an important part of the community, all of you who come here at the 7 a.m. And you're very heartfully welcome to come and be part of the discussion about the community life of IMC and what's happening with the pandemic and at this stage and other things about this community. So the Zoom link will be available a couple of days before on IMC's calendar. So thank you very much.